I'm Adrian Vale, and I've spent the better part of my 58 years chasing a rather elusive question across continents and philosophies. Today, I want to share something uncomfortable with you, something your brain desperately doesn't want you to know. You will never be happy. Not in the way you think, not permanently. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're doing exactly what evolution designed you to do. Let me explain. Right now, you probably have a mental list. If only I had this. If only I achieved that, then I'd be happy. A better job, a relationship, a house, financial freedom. And here's the cruel joke. You might get all of those things, every single one. And 6 months later, you'll be exactly as happy or unhappy as you are right now. This isn't pessimism. This is neuroscience. This is the hedonic adaptation trap. And today we're going to explore why pleasure is a terrible foundation for happiness and what the ancient philosophers knew that we've forgotten. Let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine you win the lottery tomorrow. $10 million, life-changing money. How would you feel? Now, research from the 1970s, the famous Brickman study, compared lottery winners with control groups. The results? After 1 year, lottery winners reported being no happier than they were before their windfall. Some were actually less happy. This is hedonic adaptation in action. Your brain has a happiness set point, like a thermostat. When something good happens, you spike upward. Dopamine floods your system. You feel elated. But then, your brain recalibrates. The new becomes normal. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. The neuroscience is straightforward. Your brain is a prediction machine, constantly comparing reality against expectations. When reality exceeds expectations, you get a dopamine hit, pleasure. But your brain immediately updates its predictions. The luxury car that thrilled you in month 1 becomes just your car by month 6. The promotion you desperately wanted becomes your new baseline. The ancient hedonists, Aristippus and the Cyrenaics, believed pleasure was the highest good. Maximize pleasure, minimize pain, and you'll achieve the good life. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Almost mathematical. Utilitarian philosophers like Bentham later formalized this. The greatest happiness for the greatest number, calculated like an equation. But there's a fatal flaw in the hedonic calculus. They didn't account for the treadmill. 25 centuries ago, a prince named Siddhartha came to a similar conclusion through a very different path. The Buddha's first noble truth is often translated as life is suffering, but the Sanskrit word is dukkha, something closer to unsatisfactoriness or dis-ease. And the second noble truth identifies the cause. Tanha, often translated as craving or thirst. Here's where it gets interesting. The Buddha essentially described hedonic adaptation 2,500 years before neuroscience confirmed it. He observed that desire creates suffering not because we can't get what we want, but because getting what we want doesn't satisfy us. We're hungry ghosts, creatures with enormous appetites and tiny throats, forever consuming but never filled. You desire a thing, you suffer in its absence, you acquire the thing. Brief satisfaction, then nothing. The desire evaporates and a new desire immediately takes its place. The cycle is endless. This is samsara, the wheel of suffering driven by craving. The Buddhist and the neuroscientist agree. The pursuit of pleasure is fundamentally flawed because pleasure is temporary by design. Your brain evolved not to make you happy, but to make you survive and reproduce. Satisfaction is the enemy of motivation. If our ancestors felt permanently satisfied after one meal, one sexual encounter, one safe shelter, they would have stopped striving. They would have been outcompeted. So your brain is designed to be perpetually unsatisfied. The hedonic treadmill isn't a bug, it's a feature. Let me make this concrete. I've watched this pattern repeat in my own life and in countless others. In my 30s, I believed achievement would bring happiness. I pursued academic positions, publications, recognition, and I achieved some of those things. Each success brought a brief euphoria, maybe a week, maybe a month. Then it faded, the goalposts moved, the next achievement beckoned. In my 40s, I shifted to experiences, travel, adventure, novelty. And yes, standing at Angkor Wat at sunrise or discussing Stoicism in Athens was profound. But the profundity faded. By the 10th temple, the 100th sunset, the adaptation had occurred. This is the trap. We think, the last thing didn't work, but the next thing will. We blame our choices rather than recognizing the pattern. We think we're bad at picking sources of happiness, when actually we're trying to draw water from a poisoned well. The hedonic treadmill has several mechanisms. First, there's habituation. Simple repetition dulls pleasure. The first bite of chocolate is exquisite. The 10th is merely pleasant. Second, there's comparison. Your reference point shifts. You compare your new car not to your old car, but to your neighbor's newer car. Third, there's aspiration creep. Achieving one goal immediately generates a higher goal. And here's the cruelest part. Negative experiences also show adaptation, but more slowly. We adapt to good fortune quickly and bad fortune slowly. This is the negativity bias. Your brain is designed to remember threats and losses more vividly than rewards. So you're stuck on a treadmill, running faster and faster after pleasures that evaporate while the pains linger. So what do we do? If pleasure doesn't work, what does? The ancient Greeks had another answer. Eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but more accurately flourishing or the good life. Aristotle argued that eudaimonia comes not from pleasure, but from arete, excellence, virtue, living in accordance with your nature. This is a fundamentally different approach. Instead of asking, what feels good, you ask, what is good? Instead of maximizing pleasure, you cultivate character. Instead of consuming experiences, you create meaning. And here's the key difference. Meaning doesn't adapt the same way pleasure does. A life of purpose doesn't lose its value through repetition. Raising a child doesn't become less meaningful because you've done it for years. Creating art, serving a community, pursuing knowledge, these things can deepen rather than diminish over time. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi identified what he called flow states, moments of complete absorption in challenging, meaningful activity. Time disappears, self-consciousness vanishes. And notably, people in flow states report deep satisfaction, but they're not focused on pleasure. They're focused on the activity itself. This is the shift. From hedonic happiness to eudaimonic well-being. From what can I get to what can I give. From consumption to creation. From passive pleasure to active engagement. There's another, more radical alternative, voluntary simplicity, asceticism. The Stoics practiced negative visualization. imagining the loss of what you have to appreciate it more fully. The Buddhists practice non-attachment, enjoying things without clinging to them. The cynics like Diogenes rejected material comfort entirely, living with almost nothing to prove that happiness didn't depend on possessions. I'm not suggesting you move into a barrel like Diogenes, but there's wisdom in the practice of enough, in deliberately stepping off the hedonic treadmill rather than running faster. When you fast, food becomes extraordinary again. When you practice silence, conversation becomes precious. When you own less, you appreciate more. Voluntary discomfort resets your hedonic baseline. This is counterintuitive in a culture built on more is better. But the research supports it. People who practice gratitude, who voluntarily simplify, who embrace discomfort, they report higher well-being than those endlessly pursuing the next pleasure. The trap isn't wanting things. The trap is believing that getting things will make you permanently happier. It's the attachment to outcomes, the identification of happiness with acquisition. The Buddha's third noble truth offers hope. Suffering can end, not by getting everything you want, but by transforming your relationship with wanting itself. By seeing desires as weather patterns, they arise, they pass. You don't have to chase them or identify with them. So here we are. Your brain is designed to keep you unsatisfied. The hedonic treadmill is real. Pleasure is a poor foundation for happiness. This might sound depressing, but I find it oddly liberating. Once you understand the trap, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop thinking, if only I tried harder, achieved more, got that one thing. You can recognize the pattern and choose differently. You can pursue meaning instead of pleasure. You can cultivate relationships, skills, virtues, things that compound rather than adapt. You can practice gratitude for what is, rather than craving what isn't. You can embrace challenge and growth, knowing that the struggle itself is where aliveness resides, not in the achievement. You will probably never be permanently, ecstatically happy. Your brain won't allow it, but you can be deeply satisfied. You can flourish. You can build a life of meaning that doesn't depend on the next dopamine hit. The ancient philosophers knew this, the contemplatives knew this, and now neuroscience confirms it. The question isn't, how can I be happy? The question is, how can I live well, knowing that happiness is fleeting? And that question has much better answers. Thank you for thinking with me today. I'm Adrian Vale,